I'm just going to do a quick review of the new Capture One 20 version of Capture One. For anyone that finds this that doesn't know me personally, well, I hope you enjoy this. I'm making this for a few friends who have asked me to review some of the new features and some of the things that I found in the past day of using the new version of Capture One. But to be clear, I am not a professional reviewer. So this is just me, a random dude who uses Capture One and has used it for a long time, giving some thoughts of mine to some friends. So hope you enjoy. Now, here we are at the import menu when you start Capture 120. This is your base layout. We will be going over a different layout that I have. But this is what you have, and then we're going to import some images. I've just got some random ones from air shows from the past couple years that I'm going to pull in. You import them, and they show up right over here in your browser. And you can adjust this, and this is not a full in-depth review of Capture One. This is just kind of a quick overview of some of the changes that have happened. You see it's generating the previews right here. So with this version, version 20, there are a couple things of note. First of all, why Capture One 20? The last version was 12. Well, there are a couple of rumors going around. One is that they thought 13 was an unlucky number, so they decided, well, we'll just go with 20. Others are that they're doing 20 because Adobe does the year with their versions for their software. If you actually open it up, when you open it up, you get this little splash screen, and you can actually see that it is, in fact, build version 13, but they're marketing it as Capture 120. One slight bug that I did find was the fact that in the start menu on Windows it actually doesn't have a version number right here. It looks like it should. It's spaced accordingly, but it doesn't have it. So that's just a small little thing that I noticed. It's not a big deal. As you see, I've used Capture One for a while. I have all the installers still for all the old versions. But that's not what we're here about. We are here to talk about the new version. Now, it seems that Capture One and Phase One has decided to focus on the Adobe crowd because there's two main things that they seem to have changed to copy from Adobe. Let's select a photo. Let's just pick a random photo over here. We'll choose this one. So here we have a photo. Now, one of the things that has changed is the dynamic range, which is under this menu. So previously, actually I have a capture from their screen capture from the Phase One Capture One website. Previously, this is a version 12. You see right here, we just had two, highlight and shadow. And it was 0 and up, so you could rescue highlights or you could rescue shadows. Now, as you can see over here, it's centered. You have highlights and shadows, and they've added white and black just like you would get in Lightroom. The other thing that they've done here is that previously you could only rescue highlights and shadows. Now, if you really want to, you can crush your highlights in either direction. If you want to save them, fine. If you want to kill them, fine. They've given you that option. One thing that I tell people all the time with Capture One is Capture One does not hold your hand. It will allow you to destroy your photo if you want to. It expects you to kind of know what you want and work towards that. It's not going to hold your hand. It's not going to protect you. One of the other things that has changed in this version is the basic color editor. Now, the old one, I have a capture here from their website. You see it had it split up in these sections, and then you had all the options that you could change back and forth. Now, I never used the basic. I used the advanced, but it seems that they have decided to go with what people are more common with if they've used Lightroom, and that is, where is it? It's under color editor. Basic is now we just have our separate channels, and you have your hue, saturation. So if we choose the blue, we then can adjust just like we would be used to if we were a Lightroom user. Now, in the older version, you could change these lines that come out, these splines that come out, spokes. You could grab one and shift it around to make these as large as small as you wanted, which was kind of nice, but the fact is it was kind of not needed because in the advanced, if you choose a color, you can do that in here where you can change the range itself for the exact colors that you want to affect. And you won't affect anything else. So the advanced was more useful, and I don't think many people used the old basic one, which is why they just went with something simpler. for people who are using Lightroom who want to move, this is definitely going to be more comfortable for them than to open up this and have to figure out what is going on here and how all of this works. It's not complicated, but when it's not what you're used to, it's not a little intuitive. Some other things that have slightly changed is on the crop tool now is you get these little spots right here, these little white lines. Now in the past, these weren't here. You would just grab and go.
Okay, so I have
out here to the corner, the cursor would change.
Okay, so I have no idea what just happened with my audio, so I am going to just do a secondary audio recording and lay it in for the sections that's bad. Sorry about that. Again, not a professional YouTuber. So what I'm talking about here is how you can resize it with these little handles on the side. And if you're in unconstrained mode, you can hold Shift and then click, and it will actually constrain to whatever your current resolution or your current aspect ratio happens to be. Previously, these little handles weren't here, so you just had to kind of guess where they were. I mean, obviously, they're going to be in the corners, but having the visual cue is still a nice thing to have, and it's easier to get to quickly with your mouse. Now, one of the things that I noticed that was a bug is right here. Now, these are the plugins, so this is what you can open with Capture One if you're working with photos. Now, AC/DC makes sense, Affinity Designer makes sense, GIMP makes sense. Paint, I don't really know why Paint is there. I don't think I'm ever going to use that, but it's there. What I don't understand is that it has Affinity Designer. However, what it doesn't have is Affinity Photo, which you can see I have installed and I don't actually use Designer that much, but Capture One has decided that I should be able to open images in Designer, not in Photo. So I'm hoping that's just an oversight. I can't find a way that you can add anything to this list. So hopefully with the minor revision that'll get fixed. If not, I'll probably file a ticket about that because that doesn't seem to be a problem that's really hard to fix. Now, one of the other things that I love about Capture One is keyboard shortcuts because you can do a whole lot of things. But I do have one gripe with the keyboard shortcuts. Now, not everything can be done by keyboard shortcut, but there are some things which can be, which really makes Capture One powerful because you can do a lot quicker with your keyboard, just having one hand on a keyboard with one hand on your mouse. Now, we're going to look up rotation. I'm being a dunce right here and actually looked up rotate. But I'll get with the program. Yep, there I go. So rotation. Now, this is a rotation value of 1, which is quite a lot because obviously there's only 360 degrees. And rotating 1 full degree is a lot. Now, if you use the slider, which I think I'm about to do right here, you have the ability to change the angle down to the precision of 100ths, but the keyboard shortcut only goes to 1. Now, I'm sure some people are going to go under, well, if you're going down to 100ths, that's going to be real annoying to actually do with your keyboard because you're going to have to mash your keyboard to get any meaningful rotation. And yes, that is true if you are using your keyboard. However, there are other hardware devices that you can use with Capture One. For instance, I personally use a MIDI sequencer, which should be coming on screen here momentarily. There we go. The Arturia BeatStep and also the Arturia Spark drum machine. Now, these both output MIDI signals. So I have these linked up to my computer, and I have another program which allows me to turn MIDI signals into actual keystrokes. So that rotary dial that I'm over right there, as I turn that left or right, it actually sends a signal to my system that is then converted into a keystroke. So that one right there is my exposure. So when I rotate it clockwise, it increases my exposure. When I rotate it counterclockwise, it actually decreases my exposure. Now, this allows me to very quickly change the exposure up and down in small increments instead of having to use keyboards or sliding the mouse around. And if we go over to the tab with the exposure on it, you can see that the exposure also allows to be done by 100ths. Because if you're just doing big, huge bulk changes of 1, well, that's going to be overboard. And in the keyboard shortcut for exposure, you have the capability of doing it by tenths. I don't know why that isn't the case for rotation. I filed a ticket about this before with version 12. The support person that I talked to said that they thought my request made sense. And I mean, it's not going to be a complicated thing for them to implement. It did not get put in. I don't know why. I'm going to file another ticket about it because for me, that's something that's really simple to do and very beneficial. And I can do a quick video on the BeatStep and the Spark if there's interest on how to link that up to be a control deck for Capture One. Let's see. I'm probably still babbling on about exposure right now. I think the next thing I'm going to get to is workspace. I think that was the next thing I wanted to do. Yeah. So you can set up Capture One, your workspace, to be whatever you want. You can customize your toolbars. You can customize your viewer. That's where the main image is. You can customize your browser. That's the section over on the side where all your thumbnails are. Your toolbars, you can add them. You can subtract them. You can make custom toolbars. But you can also do floating toolbars, which is what I like to do because I like to have all my things visible, all my tools visible at all times. So here is my setup right here, and boom, there you go. So this is all the tools that I'm going to use on an average basis, ready, accessible for me to go. Now, this does seem a little cluttered. I do realize that, but I don't think it's that bad. And for me, this is how I want to work. Again, this is one of the powers of Capture One, is that you can customize the interface to be what you want it to be. There are people that have come from Adobe who have customized it to look just like Lightroom, and that's fantastic. I love that Capture One has given the users the ability to set up their workspace that is most efficient for them, instead of mandating from on high, no, this is how it has to look, and you don't have a choice in that. That is something that I greatly appreciate about Capture One, and I am glad that they have continued to expand and enable users to customize the interface the way they want. You could do floating toolbars in the past, but with 13, I found it a whole lot easier to work with them and be able to snap them together and dock them. Well, they don't actually dock, but you can dock them with each other. You can't dock them to the main interface. That would be a nice little addition. But I don't know if they're going to get to it. Maybe that's in the plan. Maybe it's not. We'll see as the program is continued to be developed. So yeah, and I think right now my audio got better. So I'm just going to stop talking and let past me go ahead and close this out.
So yeah, so that's my simple review. A couple things that I noticed that should be able to be fixed or added. Quick thoughts. Again, I'm not a professional reviewer, so there it is. Capture One does have a 30-day free trial, so give it a whirl. Try it out. See what you think. And for anyone, as I said, who did find this, who does not know me personally, feel free to leave a comment, ask any questions, and I will try to answer. Thanks. Hope everybody has a good day.